basically, we are actually supposed to start because today we were planning to start at exactly 9:15. Our guest is already with us, and wherever you are, get ready, get a pen, get a paper or a book, because we have a treat. We have a learning season tonight. I can see my colleague, Joe Wisdom. Good to see you in our panel last 2 weeks ago, and we had a very wonderful time learning from you. So I've just connected my Facebook team. My co-host is already with us. I'm going to be introducing our panelists in a short while. I'm just making sure that everyone is good. All right, Johnny is my co-host tonight, together with Mr. Joe Wisdom. So it's good to have you here. Johnny, can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you quite well. Thank you very much. Joe Wisdom, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jeffrey. Thank you so much.
All right, you're most welcome.
Hello.
So, hi, good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, can you hear you very clearly? Okay. I think I have the grace to give people 2 more minutes. Then we get started. Just 2 more minutes. Thank you. All right, I think we are good. Good to see you, Jane Nyawira, Sidi, Lucio Mol, Wakio, Trufena, Tisia, all of you that are joining. James Waidaka, my friend, good to see you. Francis Waweru, good to see you. Most welcome. I know we need to get, we have good time to lunch today until 10:15. Let me just confirm on the Facebook side how things are. All right. Fantastic. Cynthia, good to see you on Facebook. And all those that are joining on Facebook Live, you're most welcome. I've seen people already started to comment. So we are going to start right away. And I want to begin by introduction. I know quite a number of people have come through. I would want to keep those that came in early waiting. We're going to go straight to the business of the day. And let me just confirm that Julius is still with us. All right. Yeah. Dr. Julius, if you can hear me, yeah, kindly unmute. I can, yeah, good. Can you hear me clearly, Dr. Julius?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, sir. Let me just go straight to the introduction of our guest tonight. And even before I get to the introduction, this is the business dialogue. The business dialogue has been running for the last 5 months now. We began in at exactly first week of March when COVID-19 started. And we've been able to run programs that have empowered so many people. We have done quite a number of topics that I felt, especially for entrepreneurs, that I felt were empowering entrepreneurs. And not only empowering entrepreneurs, but also learning lessons for entrepreneurs and people that are going into business. There has been quite a number of layoffs since COVID-19 happened. And these are people that are going into business, whether it's something they had planned or not. They have found themselves in it. And so we cannot ignore the need of empowering entrepreneurs. And that's basically what we are doing. We've gone through lessons like how to go to agribusiness, how to do branding, how to run your business professionally. We've done quite a number of discussions. And last week, we began a discussion on why businesses fail, And for this reason, we had a discussion here last week, 2 weeks ago, with a panelist, one from Nigeria, Mr. Endopolo. We had a panelist from Tanzania, Ben, and we had Joe Wisdom from Kenya. We had a fantastic time learning why businesses fail. And we had gone through some statistics. And so following this discussion, we felt we needed to hear more, and especially businesses don't just fail at the beginning level or at the startup level. Businesses still fail at the corporate level. And there seems to be a missing link on when it comes to success of business. We've seen quite huge corporates collapsing and leaving customers, leaving the the owners and the investors crying. And the big question is, what happens? Where is the missing link? And that's where we invited our guest tonight, who has been through the corporate sector. He has been in parastatals, and we know that he carries such a weight of knowledge and wisdom to share with us tonight. Dr. Julius Kipng'etich is a man who doesn't require introduction, and especially for anyone who has been in the in the corporate world for some time now, you know him and you know what he has been able to do. But again, it's also good to know that he has a track record. Besides just having a track record, I did not invite him because I know him through the papers. He trained me in 2018 on strategic management through Management University of Africa. And the knowledge he imparted in my life, up to date, it has never parted. And also it has helped me to manage businesses and organizations the best way I could. So Dr. Julius Kipng'etich, I'm so grateful for having you tonight, and we are looking forward to having a very engaging moment and also a learning period. With me is Johnny, and before I invite Dr. Julius, Johnny, kindly say hi.
Hi, I'm just excited about today. I can't wait. Mr. Julius, we have heard so much about you. We've been watching you over the years, transforming companies, transforming lives, and we just can't wait to talk from you. Thank you, and karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Joe Wisdom, can you hear me? Please say hi to us.
Yeah, thank you so much, my brother Jeff. I can hear you very clearly. Having some few challenges here that I'm managing. Thank you so much for this wonderful forum. And Dr. Julius, you're so much welcome. We have been anticipating and waiting for this day, for this evening. We are ready to learn, ready to take notes and make notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, thank you. You check the clarity on your side, but at least we've had. And let me just go straight to inviting Dr. Julius. Dr. Julius, we are so humbled to have you, and especially sparing time to even talk to us. We don't take it for granted. Please, karibu sana, and I want to give you an opportunity to also introduce yourself. It is never enough for people to introduce other people.
Okay, thank you very much, Geoffrey. I'm excited to come and share some ideas with fellow Kenyans. And, we are here. They say when you share ideas, it's not like giving an apple. If I give you an apple, I have lost. But if I give you an idea, you gain and I gain. So this conversation is about winning, it's about gaining, it's about growing. And it's a great pleasure for me. My current job is the group CEO, Jubilee Holdings. Jubilee Holdings owns several insurance companies, but it owns much more than insurance companies. That's why we're calling it holdings. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with the insurance companies. We are the largest insurer in East and Central Africa. And we also have invested in many projects in the region. Some of the projects probably you are familiar with are things like Farmer's Choice, you eat sausages, that's a Jubilee investment. We own part of Serena, part of Nation Media. If you go to Uganda, we own Bujagali power station. If you go to Tanzania, probably, and you're on internet, we own Seacom. So it's huge investments that Jubilee, including even Kenya government. If you look at, we are a publicly listed company. If you look at our books of accounts, we also have invested a lot in Kenya government in terms of treasury bills and bonds. So we are everywhere. And so we continue investing. So, and this is an entrepreneurs forum. And I like entrepreneurs. If it was a businessmen forum, I would probably be a bit reluctant. Businessmen don't move quickly. It is entrepreneurs that corrupt society. So let me just tell you the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman, because you need to know the difference. Sir. If you are an entrepreneur, it is somebody who has a unique business idea. Unique, the key word is unique business idea, and goes ahead to start it and follows through the idea to its success. Okay, let me describe a businessman. A businessman is somebody who takes an old business idea, okay, and runs with it. Now, studies have shown that entrepreneurs usually multiply compared to businessmen would typically multiply their old business idea by 2. Okay? But an entrepreneur always goes exponential. We would multiply the idea by 4, by 8, by 16. So it is somebody who then changes societies. So societies are changed by entrepreneurs, but sustained by businessmen. Businessmen only sustain. So Kenya has been at the businessman stage, and we need now to open the gates for entrepreneurs. If you look at a country like America, America is driven by entrepreneurs. If you look at what happened 50 years ago in Silicon Valley, a university, Stanford, looked at itself and said, we cannot succeed and change the world unless we have entrepreneurs that come to pick our ideas from the classroom and research labs and convert them into successful products. So what the university did was that it then invited entrepreneurs and told them, let us pair you with academics and we'll change the world. So what has happened 50 years later? So many companies have been born out of Silicon Valley. Let me just give you examples. Those of you who have an iPhone, that's a product of Silicon Valley. If you are on Google, it's the same. This webinar is broadcast on Facebook. It's a product of the same valley. So there are so many companies then that were born out of ideas that people gotten in Stanford University. So part of what we need to do, I would urge this group, is how can we pair up with universities, people with knowledge and people who do research. And then from there, you develop a unique business idea and you run with it and you will change the world. So to me, that is what we need to really emphasize, that the only way we can change the world and develop ideas quickly is to pair up with people who have incredible knowledge. For me, who was taught at the university, I used to teach at the University of Nairobi School of Business, what we used to call Faculty of Commerce. It's one of those things I used to scream about, that there is no way we can change Kenya by producing employees. we can only change Kenya if we link with business people, or as at least a core group of our students are going to start business ideas, which are unique and we change. Later on, I will be talking about some of the unique things about Kenya that if entrepreneurs just ran with them, Kenya would have been a very, very rich country.
Awesome. Wow. I think you've already gotten into the gist of it. And Dr. Julius, you've been around for quite some time. You've seen the corporate and also startup entrepreneurs, succeeding and failing. And you've mentioned something about collaborating with universities. Could it be one of the reasons why majority of the entrepreneurs that start do not finish well? Or do you have other reasons why you feel Kenya and Africa are not performing well when it comes to producing entrepreneurs, and especially successful entrepreneurs?
You see, entrepreneurship also has to be a culture among the people. To create unique ideas, it has to be infectious. You have to be, it has to be contagious. So some people must start fast and then now encourages others, and you create a ladder of people. If you look at some of the successful entrepreneurs in the city of Nairobi, most of them come from Murang'a, but it's not everywhere in Murang'a. It's a particular location in Murang'a called Rwadia. And so there's a mzee, I think he's still even alive, who then was the pioneer who came to Nairobi, possibly around 80 years ago. And he encourages people in Rwadia to come. And one of their most successful products and inspiration for the people of Rwadia is Equity Bank. Equity Bank is a product of the people of Rwadia location in Murang'a. So it requires, that's why I say it's a culture. But what is a culture? Culture are things you repeatedly do. Things, behaviors, values. So that entrepreneurial culture emerged from there and is still burning up to today. They say Rwadia location has the highest number of billionaires in Kenya, because when Equity Bank pays dividends, a lot of it end up in Rwadia location, okay? And most of them are owning properties in the city of Nairobi because they have taken loans and they keep turning those loans all the time. So it's a combination of business and entrepreneurship, and it has flourished. Now, what holds many things in Africa one is a lot of the businessmen who should be doing a lot of creative work lack the scope. Because of lack of knowledge, that's why linking with university is very important. Because of lack of knowledge, a lot of entrepreneurs' ideas are wild. An idea must be scoped. Scope means creating boundaries around how far can you do an idea. Most entrepreneurs I've seen have almost 10, 20 ideas. It is not possible to have 10, 20 ideas. Entrepreneurship and strategy, for that matter, is about having one or two. In fact, by the time you reach 3 ideas, you are going wild. 1 or 2 ideas, and you concentrate on those and do them very, very well. I'll give you an example. Facebook. What is Facebook? You have never understood really what is Facebook. Mm-hmm. Facebook is a notice board where people post their information. You post, it's a notice board of a global scale. Mm-hmm. It was created by a student, Zuckerberg, who is now the CEO, in a dormitory in Harvard, and he said he wanted his colleagues in the university to be posting messages. Then he shared these ideas with his professors, and his professor said, if you scale this thing, every human being requires a notice board. Okay? And voila. So ideas, people now came with their money and say, let's put money in this thing. Now, 2 billion of you have notice boards on this thing called Facebook. Just imagine. So it is about scoping. Many entrepreneurs are not able to scope. That is why you don't monopolize the idea. Share it with your friends, share it with people you trust, share it with professors, people with knowledge, and say, I have these wild ideas, help me narrow them to one or two. In fact, I always prefer one, try one only, okay? Because when I teach students strategy, we say, strategy is about doing a few things and doing them very, very well. Entrepreneurship is the same. Doing a few things, one or two, and then concentrate on those ones and do them very, very well. The second aspect of why entrepreneurs struggle in Africa is the issue of macro environment. The macro environment is defined by government largely, because government has a lot of control. You know, government must provide certain services. That's why we pay tax. We pay tax so that government is able to do common services, roads, water, electricity, infrastructure. Bill Gates was asked, if you are in a country other than America, would you have succeeded with Microsoft? And his answer was a straight no. Then he was asked, what does America give that other countries don't give, especially Africa? And he said, in America, governments provide an enabling environment. The laws, the support services is all to just say, continue. The reason being, when private sector succeeds, government succeeds. Government taxes private sector. It can't tax the air. It has to tax production. So somebody must produce. It's only entrepreneurs who produce. And I've never understood why Kenya government doesn't understand that simple thing, that if private sector thrives, your taxes go up automatically. It's no brainer. So government must always encourage private sector. In America, 90% of the businesses by number is SME, and most of them are entrepreneurs. And so therefore, there is a ministry called Ministry of Small Business Administration that sits in the cabinet, separate from the usual Ministry of Trade and Industry. There is a ministry separate, a whole department of government called Small Business Administration. If I was the governor of Nairobi, for example, one of my 10 slots for CECs has to be somebody in charge of SME and entrepreneurs. Only, nothing else. Okay, so that then you understand what do you do with hawkers, what do you do with, you know, people who sell burger, kiosks, all those. I'm sure that in Nairobi, there must be around 99% of the businesses. They are the ones who employ the bulk of your people. So an enabling macroeconomic environment is very important, because then it creates an environment for business to thrive. The third one is we have a disease in our people where we don't know how to combine things. Let me explain. If equity had not, if, for example, it remained with Peter Munga alone, it will probably be dead by now. But what did he do? He sold the shares to more people. In 2007, he even invited people, a private equity fund from UK called Helios, and they took 25% stake and injected 11 billion shillings. And it has kept on growing and growing and growing. So the problem with our entrepreneurs is they are a big fish in a small pond. I want you to start thinking and saying, I want to be a small fish in a very big pond. Okay? There's an idea that there's a book I want you to read called The Mystery of Capital. The Mystery of Capital, by a former governor of central bank in Peru, in South America. Now, this guy said, it's called Hernando Soto. That is his name. So this guy said, the reason why Americans are rich and Africans are poor is because in America, you don't have to own everything. All you need to do is go to a stock market and buy shares of a company that you might not even ever see it. So they are very good in mobilizing capital, pulling capital together to grow ideas. He said the challenge with us in Africa is you struggle to run your own business, your own kiosk, and you remain a kiosk forever. But if you have a successful business idea and you pull in capital, you then scale very fast. Equity would not have been like the way it is because Munga did not have the capital alone. He had to keep on adding, capital and expanding the business. Safaricom would not have been what it is today had you guys not bought shares. And it expanded. Look at the size today. It's the largest company in East and Central Africa. Pooling of capital is key to the growth of an idea. Facebook is a publicly limited company. They raise funds. They sold shares. Same thing to Microsoft, same thing to Apple. It is the way to go. So a lot of you, when you reach when you have grown your idea to a certain level, you need to inject new capital. Okay, an injection of that capital means inviting the public to own a share. That is why we need to focus on how government develops and gives incentives for companies to list at Nairobi Securities Exchange. The reason is you go there so that then it provides a platform for you to invite other stakeholders into your business in a legal way. Sometimes when you do it privately, it can get, but the stock exchange provides just a platform because there are government regulations that then make sure that if I buy shares in your company, my shares are protected. So the book is, I can see somebody is asking what the book is, The Mystery of Capital by Hernando Soto, Hernando, Hernando Soto, S-O-T-O. Okay, Hernando Soto, The Mystery of Capital. If you read it, you'll never stick with an idea. You'll always seek for new capital. And then the last one I'll just probably look at is talent. Now, most entrepreneurs, you have the business idea, but you don't have the skill and the talent to scale. Now, the challenge I see many of people in Africa doing is they go to their children and who they have not sent to school. Probably they have no interest completely in what they are doing, and then tell them, hii biashara itakuwa yako. Please don't make that mistake. Unless your child has developed the interest, don't give them to run your business. Go and buy talent. That's why a salary is the price you pay for talent. That's the price. So go and get the best, who will then now run with your business idea. So your employees are your biggest advocates, internal stakeholders to run with your business ideas. If your family have no interest, just keep them off. Let them wait for dividends to come. But they should not disturb the business. The business must be run by the best talent. That, in my view, are the critical problems that go wrong when entrepreneurs start with good ideas and then they fail. Just for your information, the global average of failure of business ideas, because of those 4 things I've mentioned, okay, is 70%. 70% of all entrepreneurial ideas fail. And they fail because you start off nicely, but you run into headwinds, and then you don't seek help, you don't get capital, the environment probably is not good, or you are running, chasing too many ideas, too many rabbits, as they say.
Amazing. We are taking notes, and I hope, guys, you're taking notes. You're free to ask questions. If you want to drop a question, you can also go to the chat room and ask a question. Dr. Julius will be able to answer. He's given quite some interesting pointers. Dr. Julius, I have one question from what you've shared, and this is about venture capitalists, vis-a-vis bootstrapping your own business. And people may be asking, where do I get these people, or how do I go about getting the right partners to my business? Kindly, would you, share with us that?
Okay. Whenever you expand the business, the first step always is your own capital. So step one is always your own capital. I would discourage all the time that you start your business using debt. Avoid debt, because then it's too high risk. And remember, debt is fixed. It's a fixed cost because there's a financing cost to it. And once the interest payment and the principal sums start rolling, you have to pay, whether the business is making a profit or not. So always start with your own capital. Okay, you can pool capital by your friends, by families, things like those. But start with your own capital first. And then when you reach now a level where income streams from the business stabilize, then you can go for debt. The reason why you go for debt first before you even reach venture capital is that you want to grow value. It's like fattening the cow before you can sell it. So you go on as capital first, and then accelerate it when income stabilize, accelerate it using debt. Okay, you can go to a bank, and then once the business now is at cruising level, because what is the price of a share? When you say I'm going to the stock exchange to now sell my company by providing that platform, the share price is future value business discounted to the present. Those of you know finance. So therefore, you have, when you sell the future, it has to be, the horizon is clear, so that then you can fetch the highest price possible. So that's why I say start with your own capital first, then leverage it using debt, then the value goes up, and then now the next stage is, let me get more capital to then expand, to improve the technology, to buy more talent, or to do marketing, whatever you want. Okay, and then now you go to the stage now where you invite partners. Now the inviting of partners, there are various categories of it. There is what you call angel investors. Angel investors are those people who take a risk. Like the Facebooks of this world, the initial guys who invested were angel investors. Now, angel investors are people who don't see the end of an idea, but the idea is beautiful enough, and they can put money and throw it away. Now, some of them have made a fortune. Then the next level are called the venture capital. Venture capital as for those small and medium enterprises. Okay, most of it is probably up to $1 million, things like those. They are not usually very big funds, so venture capital. And then the next level are called the private equity funds. The private equity funds are people who then can put in anything to do with probably $1 million, 100 million shillings, all the way even up to even 100 billion. So that is the range of private equity funds. And then from private equity funds, you now go into the stock markets. You now go to the stock exchange to get capital. So you go in a hierarchy. So most of you, I don't know what your businesses are, but I agree with you that most of them are within the purview of venture capital funds, those below $1 million. And then now they start growing to private equity funds. Are they there in Kenya? Of course, yes. There are many. I can give you, I can share a list of private equity funds that are already here. And even those which are abroad can put money here. I used to sit on the board of one of them. And we used to be scouting for SMEs to invest. Let me tell you the challenge when you are sitting now on the board of a venture capital fund, venture capital fund, and you are looking for businesses to invest in. Most of you are not formally registered. You go to a business and then you tell the guy, give me the legal documents because I can't invest something which is not legal. So most of you are not registered well. Most of you are, or your records are not even up to date at the registrar of companies. Your tax returns are not there because those guys never invest in a company without complying with the law, and tax is one of them. Most of you have no audited accounts. They look for 3 years audited accounts. You don't have an audit, or the auditor is some Jokali guy. So they start saying, I cannot put money where I cannot confirm. So there's one, in fact, I was telling the other day, where he has reached because he is thinking of listing. You should be audited by the big four, either PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, and Ernst & Young. Then he was telling, but they're expensive. I said, if you are aiming at stock exchange, you'll start more audit company. We start growing. It's important that you just appreciate. So therefore, so I want you guys to start preparing your companies with people like banks. Even banks demand the same thing, but some of them are a bit bureaucratic. So the banks, the venture capital, the PE funds, all of them are looking for formalized businesses. The other thing that hinders them is governance. You ask them, okay, who are the directors of this company? And you find it is you, your wife. So you said, okay, we want independent directors, people who can tell us this business is good independently. And then you find it's either your wife or your husband, and then your children, and then there's nobody else. They say, okay, you are not independent for us to assess you so that then we can give you money. So it's always important to separate, the family and the business. Please have some independent directors. Some of you might say, okay, but it's a family business. How do we remove our children from it? Yet they are going to inherit. They are not inheriting the business. They are inheriting shares in the business. There's a difference. If they were inheriting the business, then they should know how to run it. But if they are inheriting it, if you are bequeathing them the value of the business, then give them shares. So how do they control the business then? You separate. Typically what you do is you have the board of directors of the business, and then the family can meet separately. And those ones are called the family council. The family council and the board of directors must be separated so that the family nominates people to come and sit in the business. If it is, say, 5 directors, the family can say, we nominate 2, one the chairman and another director. And then we have 3 independent directors. In that way, if a venture capital fund comes, they will come there and say, yeah, it looks, it's well organized. I can trust some independent person rather than a family member to tell me the truth about the business. So it's important that you have all those things, ideas in mind.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question with one of the people that are in here, James Waidaka. and it's in regard to the university, linkages with university. I would want to unmute James to ask that question because I think he's a researcher in that area.
Okay.
James, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Daktari, that was very insightful, and I couldn't help also ask this question.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I'm an social entrepreneurship, and we have developed a research opportunities platform whereby we compile all funding opportunities across the globe with African eligibility, and we are doing that and selling the platform to the universities in Africa.
Yeah.
We have encountered one challenge, and this challenge is the culture, the research culture in our universities.
Yeah.
It is very, okay, I can put it in a better, it's very
Say it bluntly.
Yeah.
Don't fear.
Yeah, it's very poor. The culture
Very poor.
is very poor.
We agree that many students research to get a certificate rather than to generate knowledge.
Yes, and also the lecturers themselves are also bogged down with teaching as opposed
Teaching
to
rather
also
than research,
balancing
yeah.
together with the research. So we get to a point whereby research is purely neglected, and we found that that is one of the missing links that we need to work on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was asking how would also that thing, or rather how would that help attract these industry linkages? Because we need a way whereby we can marry the two.
Okay, thanks, Waitaka. I think let me just answer that quickly, because I've been teaching in a university, so I know the problems that are there. If you look at the history of universities, the history of a university was based on research. It was not based on teaching. A university is their number one role of a university is to do research. And professors were to teach, being a product of research. Teaching was supposed to be a product of research. So then you research first, and then you go and disseminate the same knowledge to the people, okay? So that, in fact, if you look at the mission statement of universities, it is to do research to solve societal problems. That is the purpose of a university. Now, ours in this part of the world are teaching to supply labor to society. You know, those are very different mission statements. So universities are supposed to do research. In fact, professors should never teach using a textbook. They are supposed to teach using research articles, what they have researched themselves, what is the latest knowledge. A textbook is knowledge of 20 years, 30 years behind. So that is the difference. So the challenge of our universities, that's why you are facing problems, Waitaka, is our universities are teaching to produce workers. And so therefore you go there and you can't dovetail into it, because you're looking for people with ideas. Somebody is coming looking for a job. He's not looking and he says, tell me what to do. Those are clerks. So that's the challenge of our universities. So even the way we examine people to memorize things. Then when they arrive at the workplace, you tell them, now forget about memorizing things. I want you to use your brain and think to give me ideas to expand my business. And mental block. So there's a mismatch in the way we produce knowledge workers in the way they are taught. They are taught so badly, by the time they arrive at your doorstep, a guy comes with straight A's, but of memorizing things. Very different. So there are probably one university which has tried to expand that. and that is Strathmore. Strathmore has tried to create center. There's a center for climate change. There's a center for SMEs. So it is trying to say, okay, what we are trying to do is not just teaching people. Anybody can be taught. You know, even any street vendor can teach you. But how can we generate knowledge through research so that then we are discovering new ideas? Then entrepreneurs like you come, look at those new ideas of those students and researchers, and then run with them as entrepreneurial ideas. That is where the difference is. Yeah. So you see the logic. So Waitaka, I would suggest that you probably engage Strathmore. We tried at the University of Nairobi in Spain. So watcha now. Yeah.
Thank you, Waitaka. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Strathmore is one of our customers.
Okay, fine. So I think they are the ones who have then picked and keyed the ideas correctly, and you will see that university will go very far.
Sure.
University of Nairobi has stuck at teaching.
Yeah. So far we have Makerere, Strathmore, and another like 6 other universities.
Like-minded, yeah. Correct.
All right. Quick one, Dr. Before I invite my colleague, Johnny, I think there's an echo from your end. Okay, fair enough. I'm bringing you, Johnny, but I want to ask Dr. about something you mentioned, and this is corporate governance. Currently, we have seen, huge corporates, hopeful organizations that we thought would really change the organizations and change the way business is done, but they collapse and hurt the investors, hurt the founders. When you talk about corporate governance, as entrepreneurs grow, what is that the founders should do to remain, real integrity and all that? What are you talking about corporate governance? I know, just to remind you where, back in Uchumi times, what lessons did you draw? Because when you talk about corporate governance, it must be based on experience. Kindly help us on that.
Okay. First of all, there's a book I want you to read. Today, I'm going to give you so many books, which is by Jim Collins. I'm sure most of you have read Jim Collins' books, Built to Last, From Good to Great. But there's one he has written on how the mighty fall. He wrote it in 2010, How the Mighty Fall. And he talked about several stages. There are 5 of them, how companies fall, and how to avoid that failure. Okay. And as I told you, 70% of all businesses fail within the first 5 years. Now, the critical thing when it comes to failure and corporate governance is the two are linked together. You see, when a businessman is starting the business, they're usually very hardworking, very dedicated, very disciplined, and then success comes. Okay, probably call it initial success, because success is in various stages also. When the initial success comes, many entrepreneurs drunk with, it's like getting drunk with power. So it's like, I'm very successful. And what do a typical Kenyan, what does the person do? When success comes, you start diverting money to dead assets. And most of you probably have a lot of dead assets. What's a dead asset? A dead asset is that which is not generating any income. So it's good sometimes you have some of it, because like a home, you must have a home or somewhere. Okay. But if you see a typical Kenyan businessman, when revenue starts coming through quickly in rapid succession and success, the initial success has started, what does he normally do? He goes to build a home in a village. A home in a village is a dead asset. And then he starts saying, I want to go and buy some land in Uasin Gishu or Narok or Subukia or whatever. land which has no value, and then you start planting maize. Maize is a dead asset, you know. So, or you say, okay, I want to buy a car. I want to show off that. What's a car? A car just enables you to move from point A to point B. The science of all cars is the same. What car manufacturers play around with your mind, that this is a Vitz and this is a Range Rover. So a Range Rover will go for 20 million. A Vitz will go probably for 800,000. The same engine, the science of the engine is the same. The size is just probably different. They are playing around with your psychology. That's an example of a dead asset. So a lot of you have dead assets littered all over, which is time capital of your business, which should have propelled your business. So I want you today to go and review your dead assets, okay? Then the other thing that causes failure is the governance structure being very poor. There are some companies that have very poor board of directors. What's a board of directors? Is to oversee management. Whenever there is no oversight, people tend to, misbehave. Okay. By the time I arrived in Uchumi, the company was bankrupt. And then I asked them, what happened? Then he says it was poor oversight. The CEO, nobody was overseeing the CEO. So he was doing his own things and cooking the books of accounts. So when a forensic study was done, the company was in a hole of 5 billion. So those are the things that now that make the companies fail, because lack of oversight. And that is why I was telling you earlier on, it is important to have independent directors. Somebody who is not even a shareholder, but somebody to say, I can vouch for this business that is doing things correctly. So it's very important. Then the other thing is talented employees. A lot of businesses fail because talent is shunned away. Many people ask, what's the difference between, say, the current government and the previous one? It was just talent. The previous government of Kibaki brought in a lot of talented people. A lot of the changes that happened in Kenya is happened around 2003 to 2006 thereabout. There was just so much talent in that government. I was in it, and you could feel it, the vibrancy. What did our current president do? He never attracted talent. Look at his cabinet. Do you think that cabinet has talent? So you can feel now the rest of the country starts, getting derailed. So it's very important. You must have the right people, give them the right motivation, and they are going to run with your idea. But if you are there to demotivate them, de-energize them, they run away, and you will see your business just start falling. And then, of course, the other thing is you as the founder, you have to know when to step away. Succession. You must know that you have run out of ideas, and so important to step aside and give the next generation the baton for them to run. Many founders stay too long. They then have run out of ideas, unique business ideas. Remember, the entrepreneurs was unique. They have run out of those unique ideas, and the business just starts, flattening. And before you know it, you are on deathbed. So it's always important to re-energize the business with new ideas, new talent, and it becomes an endless race. If you look at Kenya's businessmen and entrepreneurs, they have a challenge. 90% of the businesses die with the first generation. It's almost impossible to move it to the next generation, the second generation. And then 40% of those then move to fail to go to the third generation. But those who have moved it from first, second, and third generation, the chance of success after that is very high, because then you have built business resilience through. So the biggest hurdle always is to make sure that your business survives yourself and your children. If it survives those two generations, the chance that the business will succeed is now very, very high. A good example is look at the Ndegwas, how they have managed to cross over the second generation. Philip Ndegwa himself was a civil servant. He was the governor of Central Bank. Then when he retired, he had invested a lot. So some of his businesses include ICA, NIC Bank, and and a lot of real estate. Okay, his father started. He educated his children very well. He told his children, invite other players, other people. They combined forces. Okay, and the children themselves are humble enough to make sure that they are independent directors and the business is run correctly. The end result, you can be sure the Ndegwas, the children now, because the Mzee passed on, are going to pass a successful business to their own children, which is Ndegwa's grandchildren. You can be sure that's going to happen. But that to me is only one of the few. But look at the others that have hit a wall. The Karumes have hit a wall. The Michukis also have hit a wall. Okay, so there are several of them which are hitting walls because then they never prepared their children to cross over the next generation. So a lot of businesses fail, therefore, because of things, but a lot of them are issues to do with people, unchecked CEOs or CEOs who stay too long, founders who stay too long, cooking of the books, this is also part of bad corporate governance, talent, not attracting the right people so that you can run the business correctly, and things like those. Some of these things are not unique to Kenyans. Sometimes we beat ourselves too much. They are not unique to us. Some of it is common also across the world. If you look at, say, the top 500 companies in the world, it is done by a magazine called Fortune. So they are called the Fortune 500. In the last 100 years, only 5 have remained of the original 500. Only one of them is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has remained. What has made it remain? It is true to their mission. If you look at Coca-Cola, they look as if they have too many products. It is not true. In reality, those products perform a role, but they have only one product, which is the black Coke, the original Coke. It's in Coca-Cola, it's called the Black Star. So that is the only product. All the others are sideshows, and they're important sideshows. For example, Fanta is a recruiting drink. It's supposed to recruit. Dasani is if your doctor tells you don't take soda because there's sugar, then you take water. It belongs to Coca-Cola. The other day they both carrying it, and the purpose is just, if you don't like soda, you go to water. Many Kenyans like carrying it, so you just transfer. Things like Sprite is to encourage university students. Sprite actually for sports people, but eventually they graduate to the Black Star. So any drink that you take is supposed to recruit you and shepherd you towards the Black Star, which is the Black Coke. That's it. So they have only one product.
Wow.
So it is, you can see companies that survive stick to one product. As I told you, if you go to 2 or 3, you are now spreading yourself too thin. So you can be very, very careful. Entrepreneurship is about sticking with 1 or 2 ideas and don't go beyond that. The minute you tapa into what Kenyans do, you spread yourself too thin. Before you know it, the business has run out of capital and you collapse. Thank you.
Johnny, do you have anything to ask? This is amazing. I can ask Daktari questions until tomorrow. But let's hear whether Johnny, you have something to ask. Hi, Johnny, can you hear me? All right. Let me just throw in this. I know we have very limited time. And Daktari, what COVID-19 came and it affected us in different ways. And you've mentioned something that's very critical on sticking to one thing. People have been introduced to pivoting, all right? Because maybe they started business ideas that became irrelevant when COVID-19 happened. And they are now trying to see how then do they shift. What would you advise them when it comes to changing with dynamics and changing with times?
Okay, I think the first thing about COVID is understand the disease itself. You know, never respond to something you don't understand. Otherwise, your response will be like shooting in the air, you know, a target even you are not sure. What is this disease? This disease is a virus. Viruses typically have no cure. So I know most of you are waiting for a cure. This thing is unlikely to have a cure ever. So start internalizing in your mind. There's no cure. The best defense is to have a vaccine. A vaccine is probably 1 year away. Forget about these ones, which people are talking about. The Russians who are saying they have. Forget about those ones. A proper vaccine is around 1 year away. So our only remaining response for now is behavioral, which is the protocols government has given. So please reread those protocols again, because they are going to be your way of life for the medium term. And even if we get a vaccine in 1 year, okay, the vaccines generally, the efficacy when dealing with the virus is typically around 60%. So even if there will be a 40% chance that if you are injected with it, it will not work, or it will work for a short period and you need another injection. That is that virus. And then the other thing about this virus is that it gives 5 outcomes. There are 5 outcomes of the virus, and so therefore it makes it a unique disease. There's no other disease which gives you 5 outcomes. There are those, first of all, the disease doesn't touch. Even if you come into contact with it, it never enters your body. There are those it enters the body and does nothing, the so-called asymptomatic. Then there are those who encounter it, but the reaction is mild. You feel, there are many people have found it are in that mild place, and then the thing passes. Okay, you don't require hospitalization. You probably feel uncomfortable. You could be tested, and then the doctor says you go and just rest at home, and boost your immunity. Now you're keeping a Peter. The 4th outcome is those it hospitalizes. Those who have breathing problems, get sick, probably enter into ICU. And then the 5th outcome is those it kills. Now, those it kills is around 3% maximum. So it's usually 1 to 2%, 1, 2, 3, maximum 3% of the population. You might want to ask, if the mortality is so low, why are we then scared of this disease? Because there are some with higher mortalities. The challenge is we don't know which category you yourself will fall into of the 5. We don't know. That's where the problem is. We have already made some statistical inference. A statistical inference is based on numbers. Where do people fall? Remember, it's a new disease. We don't know where you will fall. From statistical inference, it attacks now those with diabetes and high blood pressure. That is largely. And also older population, those whose immunity is compromised. That is from statistics. Medically, it has not been proven, because it's new. Research has been done. So the question is, I'm sure by now you know somebody who has died of COVID. who are not diabetic and who had no high blood pressure. Why the disease chose them, we don't know. Okay? Doctors now use statistical inference, and those with pre-existing conditions have a higher chance of death. But it has not been medically proven. Not yet. So therefore, that is why we say be careful. Now, because then COVID has interfered with the world. The last 4 months has been interfered. It interfered. I want to tell you, there is no going back to pre-COVID. Don't forget, we are not going back to pre-COVID. That wall ended in March 2020. You're dunia iliisha. Now it's about living with COVID, because this disease will be with us probably until Jesus comes. The Spanish flu came in 1918, is still with us up to today. So COVID will be equal the same. HIV arrived in 81, still here. It never moved. We just learned to live with it. So my recommendation to companies is begin adjusting companies to the new reality of COVID. What does it mean? Working from home is a reality. We are not going back to the office. It's a reality. So start enabling employees to start working from home. Okay? Like, for example, the other day we did a staff survey in Jubilee, and most of them are saying they don't have the appropriate chairs because the chairs were left in the office. The chairs they used to do work at home were meant for dining hall, which is half an hour and you go. But now you're sitting on a very hard seat, not meant for office work, for 8 hours. It's not appropriate. So we were scratching our heads this week and saying, I think we need to invest and give each member of staff a seat. Some even don't have tables because we are assuming everybody has a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house like everybody. That's not true. A lot of our younger employees, clerical staff, are in an SQ, or they are living 2 or 3 in a room. It's not appropriate. So what are we going to do? So that reality is here. Then the next one is for those who will come back to the office, because some sort of balance will occur, you must then redesign the office to make it COVID friendly. You have to redesign it, because then you have to maintain those new protocols, social distance, okay, and make sure that, like, for example, many companies have invested in workstations, bringing employees to work closer and use space more efficiently. Now we have to undo that, and then now make employees, sit from a distance. Toilets, for example, how are toilets going to be cleaned to make sure that they are hygiene and there is no chance of contamination? Door handles have to be redesigned, so then you can open the door with your foot rather than with your hand. So many things now have to change in the office, and in office design it's called ergonomics, ERGO, and nomics, ergonomics, or human engineering. So everything has to be redesigned in the workplace in light of COVID, because COVID is going to be with us for a long time, probably forever. I don't see this virus going. So there are a lot of lessons then from this disease that is being learned. Probably, I think scientists are hoping that it will mutate and disappear or become very weak. That is what we thought HIV was supposed to happen. It never happened. So and remember, guys, the disease so far has no cure. Hakuna. Yeah, so we are relying on antibodies that your body just fights it and defeats it, and so it's a bad disease. Be careful.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Dr. That's the truth, and we have to come to close. But there's something you promised to talk about, and yes. I want to use that as your parting shot. What would be your advice to entrepreneurs at such a time as this?
Okay, you know, they say entrepreneurship begins at home. Our home is Kenya. And if there is any country that is unique in the world, it is Kenya. Just for your information, you know, most of you never studied geography, but I can teach you. Kenya is the only country in the world with all the climates of the world in one country. It's the only one. We have snow at the equator, we have lakes, we have savannas, we have tropical forests, we have deserts, we have oceans, everything that you can imagine, all the climates of the world in one space. And remember, it was a random line. So how Kenya got that luck? So therefore, a unique country therefore presents unique business opportunities, incredible business opportunities. When we were writing Vision 2030 in the year 2006, we started saying, with these advantages, how come Kenya is very poor? And we said, we lack the entrepreneurs to now pick these unique opportunities and run with them. So if you look at some of the unique things Kenya has, is, for example, we are the largest exporter of black tea in the world. How many of you are in the tea industry? Okay. How come multinationals, the ones now, and then holders, the ones under KTDA, those are the small holders. And the small holders have never innovated beyond and say, how can we create unique products from tea? You know, there's an Indian guy who then shook the market, and I was like, what are the black people doing here? And that is this guy who has created this brand, Kericho Gold. Kericho Gold has nothing to do with Kericho. It's just tea which is blended in Mombasa. The guy has a factory in Shimanzi, and his job is just to blend tea. And much of what is called Kericho Gold actually has very little Kenyan tea.
Okay.
He actually brings very tea from elsewhere in the world and then blends it to make higher margin. Who saw a business opportunity, even a Kenyan name, use it. You see, that is creativity. And I admire him for that. So, and in UK, he sells the same tea in UK. It doesn't call it Kericho, he calls it in different markets, he calls it different names, depending on the test. So what I can say is Kenya is unique. I gave you the example of tea. We produce the best quality coffee in the world. That Arabica, everybody buys it for blending. Virtually every coffee you take in the world has Kenyan coffee in it. Flowers, for example, Kenya produces 32% of all flowers in Europe comes from Kenya. So flowers, you know, fresh vegetables entering, much of it comes from Kenya. And then even come to other resources, wildlife, for example, we have the best combination of the big five anywhere in the world. No country can beat us. And then athletes, for example, you know, we have the best middle and long distance runners in the world. You know, climate, for example, Nairobi has the best expatriate climate in the world. Why they go and stay in Dubai? It's just leadership. If, for example, we had a Maktoum being the governor of Nairobi, the outcome will be very different. But you have what you have, and the outcome is what you have. So with that, therefore, a few things and it probably is jogging your mind. So let me just give you an idea, for example. Look at athletes, for example. You might say, what can I make out of it? Okay. Now look at these athletes. Most of them come from my village in Iten. And most of them have reached standard 7, at best some of them from 4. They don't know much English. Now, why are people like Usain Bolt making more money than, say, Eliud Kipchoge, for example? Usain Bolt, macro environment I was talking about, that is going to polish him up and make him a rock star, good for TV, to attract advertising, Nike and other things, and then so therefore it becomes a world brand. Now, there was a girl who then, I think she was, I don't know which year it was, 2009, 2010, there about Pamela Chelimo. She was a one-season wonder. Now, she won the Diamond League and she got 100 million shillings, $1 million. She won, and plus other prizes. And that was the end of her. What became of her? She was 18 years old. She got that 100 million, got married, got too fat, can't run the next season, finish. Now, one of you is an entrepreneur. I can tell you, if, for example, you create, for example, interpretation services. When they win the marathon, 9 out of 10 of the time, a Kenyan will win the marathon. So you just tell them, you speak your Kale. I'll be there to interpret in English for the world. But you pay me $10,000 for interpretation. See, that's business. Nobody has ever thought about it. Or the guy who trained Usain Bolt to do this. You know, that was an act. It was not something. Somebody had to create something unique, and then the advertisers then got attracted with that. You know, this, and they paid him. They paid him money. Usain Bolt is a multi-millionaire in dollars, not from running, but from endorsement because he was a rock star. So I would like an entrepreneur in this room to make our athletes rock stars, and you'll see, you'll make a fortune. These simple ideas like those. So Kenya is very unique, and we have not taken advantage of that uniqueness. For example, you see, Kenya has the most educated Black people. No, you don't believe it, but it's true. The most educated Black people in the world on a proportion basis. So we have the largest concentration of educated Black people, but we have never translated. Probably, Waitaka, we might have to have a conversation. How do we translate these Black people who have gone to school into stars for the world? You know, so that then we sell talent to the world. And an employment agency can say, okay, any company that's looking for diversity, say between white and Black people, at least one of them is a Kenyan, and I run the employment agency that does that. You know, things like that. So we are not using. We are all fighting with the same things. If one of us plants potatoes, all of us are in potatoes. If one of us plants tomatoes, all of us are in tomatoes. There are many other unique things, guys. So many. And you can see in another forum, start, what are the uniqueness of what you do? You know, to make sure that those business opportunities are taken advantage of because world opening. So the world is looking for you guys. You have already started. Concentrate, pick the right idea. Don't scatter your mind too much. And once you pick your idea, and scale to the world. Don't typically, for you to scale to the world, it's a journey of 30 years, roughly. So don't rush and build the wrong foundation. If you look at Equity Bank, it's now 36 years old. It's not something, it has been with us for that, but usually, typically for you to really scale to the world, you are roughly looking at 30 years. So if you have put the foundation today, look at it the next 30 years, what you can do. And you will be great, you will be big, you will be rich, you will then grow wealth in Kenya. And that's how Kenya government will be also wealthy, because it will tax you. Asante sana.
Thank you, Daktari. I'm so grateful. And just before you leave, Fanis Waswa, Dr. Fanis is a lecturer at KCA, and she has requested to just maybe ask a question or comment. And I also want to acknowledge a friend of mine from Malawi, Claire, who is the CEO of Malawi Bankers Association. She's with us, but we'll have her talk next time. So thank you very much, Claire, for joining us. Dr. Waswa, kindly, quickly, we have extended time, but it's good to have
I'm sure the lady from Malawi now knows that we take Malawian tea branded as Kericho Gold.
Definitely, yes. Thank you. Dr. Waswa?
Okay. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you so much for convening this wonderful platform. I think Dr. Julius, you're very interesting to listen to. I would wish to be in your class. Now, I have a question. You've put a lot of emphasis on universities cooperating with entrepreneurs so that we can be able to take entrepreneur to the level where it's supposed to be. But of late, I've been reading articles where people have the perception that you don't need to go to class to learn entrepreneurship. So I would just like to hear your view about this.
Okay. Entrepreneurship, let me go again and define it. Because it's from its definition that you see, entrepreneurship is somebody who has a creative mind. It's about creativity. And creativity is not necessarily about having a degree. No. Everybody is creative. It is a God-given thing. Everybody has it. It's just that it's you to discover what area of uniqueness of the gift God gave you. Many people, the school system has narrowed our children to a straitjacket, so that the children sometimes don't know what their gift is. Remember the story of a fish, that if you tell a fish to climb a tree, of course it will fail, so it lives all its life thinking it's a fool. But put the same fish in water and they fly. So the problem with our school system is it puts everybody in a straitjacket where it tells you, all of you climb the tree, even if you are a fish. So the school system will change, and it will allow children to be what they are. It gives them that flexibility. And that is why their talent will now come out. In fact, if you look at some of the people that have developed ideas in Silicon Valley, most of them are dropouts in school. Why? They were rebels. They couldn't. The school system was limiting their creativity and innovation, so they drop out. So Steve Jobs dropped out. Bill Gates dropped out. It's not that they were foolish. It's just that the school system restricts their thinking and creativity. So one of the things that universities need to do is to recreate themselves to be thinking and creative places, rather than people who take notes in a lecture hall, memorize, reproduce, get a degree, and then come to the job place and say nataka kazi. That is where the problem is with our universities and education system in general. So that is so that is my feedback. So I would like, part of the reforms our societies must go through is an overhaul of our education system and how talent is attracted. I know employers now are saying you don't need a university degree. University degree is not universities are not the only places where people acquire knowledge. People acquire knowledge at home. People can read on their own. So universities and schools are not monopolies of knowledge. Knowledge can be acquired in other ways. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Julius. We have to wind up, but this one question, because you're a CEO, I want to ask a very tricky question.
Yes.
What do you think about employees starting side businesses? Please tell us about that.
Okay. Employees, you see, what's the contract between an employee and an employer? The contract, as they are currently structured, is between 8 and 5. The employee, that's 8 hours. The employee has therefore an additional 16 hours. An employer has no right to ask an employee what they do with the other 16 hours if they have given you their 8 hours. So whether they use it for side hustles or whatever, that's their business. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It's freedom. So you can't restrict, okay? And COVID is going to accelerate side hustles. That's what it's called them. It's going to accelerate that. Why? When I work from home, I can multitask. So compensation systems are going to change. The compensation system in organization will change to piece rates. That is, we agree as an employer and an employee, this is your assignment and I will pay you so much. Well, if you finish my assignment in 1 hour or in 10 hours, it's up to you. Okay? So the economy will become more efficient because the employee then will do my job, do another job, and another one. I'll give a person in our workplace. He does 3 things. He gives me my 8 hours. And he was telling me the other day, I want to give you less. Okay? He's a cameraman in a newsroom. So at night, 9 o'clock, he's a cameraman. And then at 3 a.m., he wakes up for 2 hours to write software for a company in the US. Who am I to ask him not to be a cameraman? Who am I to ask him not to write software? So long as the next day at 8 o'clock he's in the office, he's discharging his duties, and he's one of the best employees. Who am I? Thank you.
Thank you very much. There are so many questions that are coming. We cannot ask all of them because, again, we are limited in terms of time. I would want to request Dr. Julius, would you kindly share your email address for people who would